that one. Now I'm going to tell you why Mihawk has ringed eyes and the other soul within his body. Let's theorize for a second. But before we start, I always need to do this. Mihawk does not have fucking yellow eyes. The anime messed up, and they've never changed it since then. In the manga, they're colored red. He has the same red ringed eyes as Imu. Now that you understand that, we know ringed eyes means two souls within a body. Mihawk is the soul within his body, obviously. Who's the other soul? And the answer is the will of his sword, Yoru. This is the soul that's within Mihawk's body. Because as we know, a big thing about swordsmen is they have to become one with the will of the sword. The will of the sword itself is alive. Enma was literally taking Zoro's haki, and if his will was not stronger than the sword's, it would kill him. And the same thing applied to Mihawk's sword, his black blade. The thing about it being a black blade is this is the only weapon in the show that has been shown to be a black blade, the strongest weapon within One Piece. The name for Mihawk's weapon is Yoru, and Yoru itself translates to night. In two different worlds, the One Piece world was plunged and lived in complete darkness in nighttime. They only received light from the moonlight, and they worshipped the moon because the moon reflected the sun's light. And this is the only light they were able to receive in a world of darkness. And so, with this weapon being a black blade, and its name translating to night itself, I think that's very important for what happened in this mural and the ancient kingdom. The blade Yoru itself likely comes from the past, and was already a black blade. The thing is, Mihawk doesn't have Yoru as a child, and he doesn't have ringed eyes. This definitely supports the fact that Yoru is the reason that Mihawk has ringed eyes now. So the other person who has ringed eyes is Imu. Imu coming from long ago within the Void Century, or in the fact that Yoru comes from that time. I told you guys how Imu themselves is based off of Yamato no Orochi, the eight-headed serpent. That is why a depiction of the same serpent is back within Skypiea. It's that serpent fighting a being with a shield and a sword, likely Nika or Joy Boy, either one you want to pick, but it's probably Nika. Yes, the story of Yamato no Orochi tells the details of this eight-headed serpent stealing the body of a woman every year. I equated that to Imu doing the same thing when it came to taking Lily's body. Again, watch the video this is tagged from if you haven't seen it. But there was more to that story of Yamato no Orochi. You see, when Yamato no Orochi was coming to these old gods and stealing one of their daughters every year, they decided to ask the god Susanoo, the god of destruction, for help. Susanoo in Japanese mythology is a skilled swordsman. Coincidence? I think not. This is the god that slayed Yamato no Orochi. He did it by collecting 8 vats and filling them with some very strong sake. So when Yamato no Orochi came back for that 8th sacrifice, that 8th daughter, Yamato no Orochi first put all of its head in these vats of sake and drank from them, and then fell asleep from being drunk. Susanoo took this as his chance to cut off Yamato no Orochi's heads and defeat Yamato no Orochi. Friends, within that story, you have 8 vats being placed around, and the snake's head being placed within all of those 8 vats, and then eventually cut off. That is the symbol of the ancient kingdom. The defeat of Yamato no Orochi is the direct symbol of the ancient kingdom. And the thing is, this defeat of Yamato no Orochi has not happened yet. Imu is still within power. I will be coming back to this topic, don't forget it. Because when Susanoo defeats Yamato no Orochi had 8 tails. Susanoo begins cutting at each of these 8 tails. When he gets to the 4th tail, he cuts into something and breaks his sword. What he hit was another legendary sword. A sword that came from the body of Yamato no Orochi. We're saying Yamato no Orochi represents Imu. They were known for having bright red eyes. The sword that was born from this creature, essentially related to it, would make sense that the soul within it also has red ringed eyes. Do you understand it now? This is also very big for Zoro, because the sun god is consistently lost to a multi-headed serpent. Every time this serpent gains a new body, it gains more life for itself. It extends its life force. So every time the sun god fights this thing, it has an extra head, and it is currently trying to find its 9th and final head. And with the sun god losing the first few times, the fact that Mihawk trained Zoro is very important. Susanoo takes this legendary sword and gifts it to the sun god. Mihawk trains Zoro for Luffy, the pirate king, the sun god. It is a good thing that this time around, the first mate of the sun god has more than enough swords to cut off every head of that snake. The sun god will win this time because his sword has been sharpened and prepared for this battle. Ooh, that was kind of a bar, damn. This itself just gives us context to who Yoru was in the past. Because one thing you'll find about the first mates of people who represent sun gods, they have names or epithets that attribute them to the god of the underworld, the god of hell. Zoro decides to become the king of hell. Rayleigh is known as the Dark King. If you translate that to Mayusi, you get Pluto, god of the underworld. Rayleigh was the first mate of another version of Joy Boy, Roger. Roger was just too early. And that would mean something for Yoru because it is Yoru himself who has the associations to the underworld. You know, his name alone, Night, and what happened in the past of the One Piece world puts him there. But it's Mihawk, specifically, who has the underworld association. The god of the underworld in Aztec mythology was Miklutin. People went on a 4-year journey through the 9 levels of hell to be rebirthed. We meet Mihawk in exactly chapter 49. Impel Down, which is supposed to be symbolized as hell, is characterized by being ruled by the leaders as bats or devils. Magellan, Hannibal City, they're all bats and devils. Then you have Gekko Maria in Thriller Bark, literally a symbolization of the underworld, a place where the souls of the dead reside and live. This is why there are all the zombies and things there on Thriller Bark. Gekko Maria is a bat. His power manifests in the form of bats. His Jolly Roger is a bat. Dr. Hogbat, a bat. Or a vampire, whatever you want to say he is. You can even call Gekko Maria a vampire. Doesn't really matter. All of these go back to the theme of the original vampire, Dracula. And that's who he's based off and why his name is Dracula Mihawk. He is also a depiction of a god of the underworld. That would mean something about Yoru. As stated, swordsmen with these underworld depictions have usually been shown to be the first mates of sun gods. So what does that mean for Yoru? Yoru might have been the first mate of Joy Boy. But there's something I'd noticed about Yoru also. This whole idea of swordsman is big, and that is for this underworld associations and these first mates. The main place that is attributed to swordsmen is Wano. Biggest thing about Wano is they are proficient in Ryu. If you mix up the name Yoru, you get Ryu. Oda, you're not fucking slick. This leaves us with a few options. Joy Boy's first crewmate was named Yoru, but that would obviously be very obvious to see how we figured this out. And this research takes us to Wano and Ryu itself, which is a mix-up of the name Yoru itself. So was Joy Boy's first mate Ryu? Or there was another very prominent swordsman from Wano that likely came from the Void Century. Was Joy Boy's first mate just Ryuma? To parallel Zoro to his ancestor, or would be now following in his footsteps for the next version of the sun god. Also, Ryuma's big thing about slaying a dragon. Dun 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 dun. Oda, I just want to let you know you're officially caught. Because y'all know my other theory about the fact that this is the moon god. Its body was used to make the poneglyphs and the red line. If this thing was slayed in Wano by Ryuma, the poneglyphs were made within Wano's volcano. Do you see what I'm telling you? In Wano, they killed this thing and used its body to make the poneglyphs. They used it to make the red line. This supports my entire theories that the poneglyphs are made of space rock. If they're made from the moon god, it's space rock. This is why it's indestructible. This is why Pluton is under Wano. Pluton, god of the underworld. And there's that underworld association again. The death of this creature specifically used for the red line and the poneglyphs. And now you can understand what was Pluton's purpose. It's a giant warship, a battleship. What's gonna pull that giant thing's body all the way around the Earth? None other than Pluton, a giant warship. It also would have been very instrumental in defeating that beast, with Ryuma putting the final slash on its head. And this makes sense because that is a parallel of Joy Boy's world. The same thing happened in Nika's world, but the gods didn't exist at that time. It was just the natural processes of the planet itself. When humanity was up here on the moon, they have literal mining machines up there, or had literal mining machines up there, because they were mining the moon, taking it and stripping it of its resources. They used it to make weapons and fight each other. They literally fell into nuclear war because of the moon. This is why the races that adapt in the moonlight have adapted to nuclear fire. Under nuclear radiation, your eyes turn white, hair turns red. This is why their names are Lunarians. They had to adapt because of the moon. It applies to the minks who adapt in the moonlight. The world was blanketed by the radiation of the moon. So in the moonlight, their hair turns white, their eyes turn red. In the first world, humanity fell into nuclear war. The snake was able to destroy them because of that. And on our way to the second world is when this snake is killed and its body was used. Because this snake was not supposed to be on Earth. It needed to be removed from the Earth. Quite literally came from hell. It was the serpent of hell. And it's all because humanity decided to start using the souls of the dead, which opened the doorway to hell, for this creature to rise up and destroy them. As we moved to the second world, this creature still existed. It needed to be removed from the world. Humanity had already been destroyed and rebirthed. There was no reason for this thing to be on the land anymore. So it had to be killed, it had to be taken out. And that was done by Joy Boy's first mate. This was done with the help of the ancient weapon Pluton. It was then used to spread that creature's body across the entire world, and to also spread the poneglyphs. This was to save all of humanity. This is why the Lunarians lived atop the red line first. After the world had been destroyed and had been taught to adapt and survive, each one of these races were placed in a strategic place. They were placed in the heavens. The minks were placed on top of Zuni ships to forever roam the earth. And the fishmen were sent down to the bottom of the world, the bottom of the sea. It's literally a symbolization of the races adapting and being sent to heaven, earth, and hell. This is why you can look at heaven and hell and see that they have properties of each other. The fishmen are trapped in hell. This place has plenty of water, and water that's provided. Water that comes from the cloud itself, from the heavens. The Lunarians are depicted within heaven, but they have the flames of hell. It's just two inverse relationships. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.